You need to let yourself make mistakes. I'm your host, Laura Lynn, and welcome to Grounded Spirits Podcast, a place where we're learning how to stay rooted while flying high. I've recently rethought that, and I'm like, what does that actually even mean? Staying rooted while flying high? And so what I've come up with is that to be rooted, it's that you're like a plant. The way that plants communicate is by being rooted. And so to be rooted, it means that you are so deeply connected to not only yourself, but to your community, to your country, to the world, to the universe, that you are so rooted that you're able to get your message across and for it to actually be received the way that you wanted it to. I think that so many conflicts come from being misunderstood, or so many problems, like internal struggles, come from being misunderstood. And that's why I think that on this show, I go so deep in how to be rooted so that we can end that. We are in the 21st century. We can communicate across continents now in a blink of an eye. How come we still feel so misunderstood, so lonely, and are in conflict with ourselves, with each other? Obviously what's going on right now in Palestine, there's just so much conflict everywhere, and I think the number one thing is to be understood. So that's the stay rooted part. Then to fly high, once you feel secure in your community, or like how they say that it takes a village to raise a child, we are the children, and the village is nature, it's ourselves, it's our communities, our schools, our extracurriculars, everything, right? Once we have that secured, that is how we are able to fly high. And then I always say that it's that way, but it's also the other way. Let's find a way to fly high so that we can be rooted. And what I mean by that is flying high means that you're getting a bird's eye view, that you're coming up, that you're leveling up. And by leveling up, I mean that you're becoming more you, that you're doing the things that you want to do, that you're not forcing yourself to do the things that you don't, and trusting that there are other people that will reach you at that level, that you won't be alone, that if anything, by flying high, you'll get to this level and you'll meet all the other people that are already up there waiting to welcome you with open arms, So I think that you have to do both. Fly high to be an individual, but what's funny is that by being your most individual self, that's how you're going to find more people, that's how you're going to get more rooted, and then we can have peace. All right, so today we're starting off with the Fool, and the Fool is numbers is zero. Is zero in the major arcana, and the reason why it's zero is that it's before the journey. You have to make the decision to be okay with acting a fool, because if we don't act like a fool, we'll never learn. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but I recently saw this TikTok where she was saying that you're gonna feel like a loser, you're gonna feel stupid, you're gonna feel all of these horrible feelings when you first start something. Why? Because it's new. You've never done it before. So how do you expect to run a marathon when you haven't even taken a step? Like if you're just a baby, for instance. The Fool does represent the inner child. So it's your inner child healing as well by allowing yourself to make mistakes, allowing yourself to expand and open up to the world of infinite possibilities. And that's really what the Fool encapsulates. So what I'm going to do is I brought a couple of decks. We're going to look at what the Fool card looks like in that deck and then talk about it more. So the first deck that I got is the Arthurian Tarot deck. This one is really cool for when you want to understand the adventures that you may be asked to go on. It's about the hero's journey, so you can think about it like with Joseph Campbell. I also have this Golden Universal Tarot. I love this. It's so fancy, and I really love the way that they depict it, and like the gold leafing. It's really cool. And then I also have this Dream deck. And so it's an oracle deck, so it's not going to have every single one because it's not a tarot deck, but I thought that it'll really help us understand the different cycles of the moon and how it pertains to the actual tarot deck. And lastly, we have this book, Mother Peace, and in it she has a picture of what her tarot deck that she created This is by Vicki Noble, and she draws them differently, but she goes through each of the elements of the card and the symbolism behind it and how it pertains to understanding the Fool's journey. So this is what we have in store for today, and of course I'll bring in astrology, I'll bring in dream interpretation, and I'll bring in my own experience to better understand this. Okay, so the first card that I want to talk about is this one. This is from the Arthurian tarot deck. It's called the Seeker, and you can see that he is literally on a rainbow. Like, this path does not exist. He is coming off of a cliff, and he is trusting that he will actually be held by God, and it's this rainbow. Oh, I don't have my phone, but on my phone, like, this Pinterest pin came to me. So this woman, she's blind and she's naked and her arms are straight up, and it's just this rainbow that's like falling over her. And I really feel like that's me right now, where I'm blindly trusting God and knowing that God really is gonna be there for me and is gonna lead the way. And I think it's very similar to our seeker here. You can also see that he has these crows. These are the crows of Rhiannon. I hope I'm saying that right. She is part of the Celtic tradition, I believe. And she's like this sorceress. So these crows of Rhiannon, they are there to help protect him, to help him go onto his journey, to go on the journey without any doubt, without any fear, and to just allow himself to blindly walk on this rainbow. He has his staff that is helping him with that stability, that security, but he's really just going off the deep end, you know, but he's trusting that these crows will help him. And it's interesting too, because in numerology, 333 also means that the angels are protecting you, that they're there for you. And then here we have the three crows of Rhiannon. You also see that there's a tree behind him. So again, with that staying rooted, flying high, like staying rooted, flying high, you can't get better than that. And then, like I said, also him taking off. You also do see this river in the back. In Mother Peace, Noble explains that that is the stream of consciousness, and knowing that we're going with the flow of nature, of God, that we have been chosen to go onto this journey. And the beautiful thing is that every single one of us has been chosen to go onto this journey, or else we wouldn't be here, right? So it's about finding your own journey and then finding ways to share your story, because we all want to better understand each other. I think, like I said, it all goes back to understanding. Okay, so this one is from our Golden Tarot deck, so you can see how it kind of like shines in the sun. There it is. And here we have, like, do you see how like nonchalant he is? He's just like minding his own business. He doesn't care. A way that a friend described it to me is like when a baby is crawling, and have you seen like those like little like shorts, or like, I think they're like in movies as well, where like the baby's just crawling and all these like different things are like happening, but the baby's path is just perfect. Like, it doesn't even know that it was in danger at any point of the journey. Like, that's the look right there. Like, I'm protected. God's got me. Look at all like the golden behind it. Like, that's God. You see the sun shining. He has his little pouch there on his staff. So the other one, he had it in front. Like, okay, like kind of like a blind man walks like with his staff, that he needs it to like be able to understand the world. Like, make sure he's not in danger. Yeah, just to like have his feelers. Here, the staff is on his back. Like, he is so nonchalant about this. He knows that God's got him. He doesn't even have to look where he's stepping. He's just like la-di-da-di-da, like having the grandest time. And I think that that's where we're trying to get to, right? You also see that he has this white dog that wants his attention, but also white from the dog and from the mountain symbolize like this purity, this innocence. Like, maybe the dog's like just like wanting to play, like, hey, let's have some fun. And that's like what the Fool is about too. It's about having fun, exploring, learning, being curious about the world, about the self. But yeah, so you have the rose that he's holding back behind him. So it's like, beauty isn't important to him right now. Looking good, quote unquote, isn't important to him right now. It's just about being himself. And I keep saying him because it looks like a him, but it could be a her, you know, it could be a them, they, whoever. It's us. It's us that are on this journey, and it's like giving ourselves a break that we are going to make mistakes, and it's just about learning, about growing, but we have to go into it with this attitude. Like, do not give no F's. Look at that. But again, he's also off a cliff, and he doesn't seem to mind. He's like, okay, if I fall, I fall. God will catch me. And he does. But like, the thing is that our reason is like, but what if he doesn't? And what if we die? And I think that that's like the super scary part about trusting, is that, but what if I, like a trust fall, you know, like what if you don't catch me? Then what? And I think that in life, there has to be that level of trust. There has to be the level within the self, that knowing that every single step that we take, it'll go according to plan, as long as we're doing the next right thing. So you can see that from Frozen 2 with Anna. When she feels hopeless, she's at the bottom of the pit, you could say, she just does the next right thing, and then it ends up all working out. And I think that's like where the trust is, that yes, bad things can happen, but at the end of the day, it's all going to work out. And I think that's also shown in the movie Yes Man, where he's hesitant to say yes. He's always saying no to everything, and sometimes bad things do happen to him, but it always comes out okay, and it ends up actually getting better than if he had said no and just like shut off that opportunity. The Fool is all about opportunities. That's why it's that zero. That zero is like a portal where there's like an infinite amount of possibilities. You could think about it also like a seed, where the seed has everything that it needs to grow into a huge tree. But it's in tiniest thing, in the zero, you know, in the little shell. And that's us right now, where, and it doesn't matter what level you're at. It doesn't matter if you're a billionaire. It doesn't matter if you have $20 in your pocket. It's that we're all constantly growing, and we can't judge each other on where we're at in life. We can't compare that, because we have had millions, if not billions, of past lives that we can't remember, but our souls remember, and our souls know what's the next right thing for us, or the next right test. And so when I do make mistakes, or I'm like, oh man, like I should have done this, or I should have done that, all that means is that you are becoming aware of things that you might have done in the past that you don't want to do moving forward. And everything's just a growing, learning opportunity. So if you do make a mistake, you can't beat yourself up over it. Okay, you made the mistake, you learn from it, and then you grow, you continue. And that's what we're learning here. So this next one is from my Dream Ritual Oracle cards. I'm not sponsored by any of these, by the way. Like, these are just like literally my own decks. So for my Moon Oracle cards, I have this card, Awaken. And this one is so cool because it actually relates to Jung, or Jung. I don't ever know how to say that guy's name. But Freud said that we each have like our own like little cup of consciousness, that they're not connected. Like, I have my own cup of consciousness, or like subconsciousness, and you have your own, he has his own, she has his own. You get it, right? And then Jung comes and he's like, actually, you're just looking at the cup, but there's actually a whole ocean where all of our consciousnesses all come together. And I think that that's why, like, in dreams, like, you could visit people in dreams, like, or your consciousness can visit people in dreams. And I think it's because of this, that in the subconscious, we're all mixed in together. We're just the collective. And this card represents that beautifully. So you can see like the lily pads, they have their own little part, but then here we're all part of it together. So this is like the little bit of the full consciousness. So when it comes to awaken, so this is what I mean, like with the Fool's Journey, that you have to awaken to the fact that there are possibilities at any given moment. So like I said, whether you're a billionaire or have $20 to your name, there's still a right step for you to do. And I don't mean like right, like, oh, if you do anything else, it's going to be wrong. I mean like what your heart is telling you to do. So if you're listening to your heart, that's honestly all that matters. If you're listening to your heart, you're going to have the next right step, and then you're just going to keep continuing and moving forward. And then you can get up to this point where now you have this overflow, that you have been able to, oh my gosh, there's a coyote. Oh my gosh, that was so cool, but kind of scary. Because like, what if he comes down this way? Oh, my heart's racing. Because he was like pretty big too. I have a German Shepherd and he was about his size. My heart's still racing, okay. Anyway, so we were talking about this card, that So the new moon. So the new moon is, like everyone has said this, right? The new moon is about bringing in new possibilities. So again, like with the Fool card, the world is your oyster. You can always have an opportunity. And I think it's just about, like how they say, like the law of attraction, that once you feel like you're at this level, then everything else is going to come. And that's what's happening here. Like once they're ready to go to the next level, that they're ready to begin again, because every single time that the moon is the new moon, it's dark, right? Like it's not here. And I think that it has to trust that it's always going to come back. I'm like still on edge. I heard like crinklings. So we have the new moon. The new moon is about new possibilities, always having different options, but also like really trusting that you are going to be making the right decisions, that you are going to be doing the things that really light you up. And the cool thing is that in astrology, the moon is also symbolic of your emotions, of your heart. And so, like I said, if you follow your heart, you're going to be good. So the new moon is like a chance for that renewal, for that receiving energy. And so that's why, like now, once you're ready to receive, once you open up your heart, then that's when you have the overflow. And so once you start putting like your good energy into the collective, then the collective ends up getting better. And I feel like that's like why people say like, oh, I'm just one person, I can't change the world. But like, honestly, like your energy has a ripple effect. Like you can literally see the ripples that are like, this one's barely coming in, but you can see the ripples that it's already creating. You can also see here that the butterflies are coming over. So like again, law of attraction, once you feel better, then like other things will come to you. So like I said, it doesn't matter where you are financially, mentally, emotionally, it doesn't matter where you are. This is ground zero and you can only go up from here. And when I say that, that doesn't mean that there might not be dips, because I feel like that's life. You know, you're going to have ups, you're going to have downs. But if it was always going up, you wouldn't have anything to compare it to. So this is ground zero, this is our baseline, and then from here we can see our ups and downs. And that's why we have a new moon every month. So every month we're restarting. Today's a brand new season. We are in Scorpio season. And Scorpio is about going in deep. So I feel like that's like with this collective part, like with the ocean is like so deep that we don't even know what's down there. And I feel like that's Scorpio, where we can go so deep into our inner world, which is what we're here to explore at Grounded Spirits. And this is just one way to do it, by being a fool, accepting ourselves for who we are, without judgment, without fear, without shame, without any of that, and just really loving ourselves. And like I said, listening to our hearts. So with that, before we get into Mother Peace, I really wanted to share, I'm going to put them on here somewhere. If you're watching it, if you're not, I'll put it on Instagram so you can see them. But a friend sent me this, how do I call it? Like these sentence frames. So they're for your inner child. Like if you lightened up, you would do blank. If you could, I don't know. But I'm going to have them up here so you can read them, go through them, like really like dig deep into these questions to see like, what does your inner child need and how can you provide for it? Because then that is what will be the next right step for you to level up and have your dream life. So for the Mother Peace card, this is what it looks like. So you can see that here, the Fool is a child that is doing a handstand, and it's not in a handstand the way like the Hanged Man is, where it's being forced to see things in a new perspective. This one, like the child's doing it willingly. She's doing it out of like jokes and play, out of play. Like she's just like having fun with it. Like on her journey, like why wouldn't I want to see things differently? Why wouldn't I want to pick up every rock and talk to it? Like literally being a kid again. I posted on my story a long time ago where I was at a park and there was this little girl like hugging the tree and running around the tree. And it was just so beautiful to see her have that experience with the tree. But then I put on my story, I was like, I would love to do that. My inner child would love to do that, to go run up to a tree at a park and talk to it and hug it. But if I did that, if I went to just like a normal state park, I would be like a weirdo. So obviously I'm not going to do that. I'm not just going to go to a tree and start like hugging it and loving it. But it's for fear of what everyone else will think, where the whole thing of this journey is like, don't don't care about what anybody else will think. But I feel like there's also limits, you know, like you also have to have your boundaries of like what's appropriate in public and what's not. Right now I have a poll going on my story of whether morals are something that are universal, that everybody has the same morals, or that they were created by the rich to control the poor. And there are points to both, right? But I think that when it comes down to understanding, it's about this, about having like the different perspectives, that you do need different perspectives so that you can make sure that your morals are quote unquote correct. I think that morals are something that can evolve over time through a society, not individually. So now I want to go over, we're still gonna be talking about that card, but I'm gonna go over like the text of what she says about the card. So she starts it off by talking about the goddess of all things that rose naked from chaos and found nowhere to place her feet. So she literally had to trust God. So just like the seeker card from the Arthurian tarot, that he's like walking on this rainbow and he's fine. So I feel like that's like how this whole thing started. The other thing, that's why it's called Mother Peace here, is that she's saying that it's actually all feminine, like going on this journey. Like you have to be feminine, you have to be flexible to go onto this journey to level up. And masculinity is like that fear of change, of just wanting structure, to have safety. Everything comes down to safety. Like every atrocity that has ever happened just comes down to safety. Even I would say like Israelis, I'm like, should I go into this topic? But I think that it goes down to safety. Like they just don't trust the Palestinians, so they want them gone, and they're willing to use force to it because they're scared. They're scared that their Palestinians are going to take over their country. But I feel like we kind of see that here in America too, where we're scared. Like in the beginning, like with Ellis Island, like people were scared of the Irish, and then they were scared of the Italians, and then they were scared of the Mexicans, and then they were scared of the Chinese. That they're all scared of these different people. And like right now, Africans didn't even have a chance. Like they didn't choose to come here. They were brought here. And now like Americans are scared of them too. So it all just comes down to fear and having, like I was saying earlier, about those deep roots where you can trust each other, trust yourself, trust your community, trust the people of your country. And once you have that trust, then you can go on this journey of being more flexible, more loose, when you have that stability, when you have that safety. I think that is a prerequisite. Is it? I'm like thinking about it. It could be, but I feel like also you can build this trust by going on this journey as well. So back to the goddess of all things, she separated the sea from the sky. She brooded over the waters until she gave birth to life herself. And so this is the Holy Spirit, the original form, the breath of life. And it's interesting because if you have watched this show in the past, I talk about it ad nauseum of how God split himself up from all that there was, which is the Holy Spirit. And then God and the Holy Spirit, like it's a Venn diagram, the middle is Jesus, and that is who we are too. We are human, where we have this structure, we have this body that God has created through his structure, through separating ourselves from all that there is, having an ego, having an identity, being an individual, and also being part of the collective, which is the Holy Spirit, which is the divineness of ourself, but that's also God, like with soul and stuff. Fool and tarot decks are depicted as a happy-go-lucky mortal about to step off the cliff into the abyss, and so that's what we were talking about. That's what we saw in the other cards as well. Noble likes to think about it as like the Roadrunner in the cartoons, where like the coyote is always trying to get him, but the Roadrunner's just like, beep, beep, I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm going to just be myself. And I just trust that the coyote's not going to get me, and that things happen to the coyote because he's trying to like move his path instead of just like being himself. And it's interesting because like I said, I just saw a coyote and it did just go on its way. I didn't have to fear. I didn't have to worry. that I have to trust that God will protect me. Then she goes on to say, this is Vicky Noble, she says, the fool doesn't know what she is doing in the sense of a logical thought, but moves from an impulse that arises out of the infinite possibilities alive in the embryonic state represented by a zero. So I already talked about that, but this also reminds me of like Aries energy. So we know that Aries is the first zodiac in astrology, so this is like very much Aries energy. Aries also like represents this like childlike curiosity, this like wonder of the world, almost looking at everything as if you're seeing it for the first time. Then Noble talks about how things are constantly just happening, that there's like this unspoken and usually unacknowledged links between thoughts and events. So you just kind of willed it. It was just like magic. It just fell from the sky. This happened one time for my husband. We were looking to buy a house in Redlands, and this job just like literally fell from the sky. Like he was helping out a customer, and the customer was like, hey, I like your work ethic, you want this job? And it was like a supervisor job at a medical facility, and my husband was working in lumber at the time. So like this job literally fell from the sky in Redlands. It was like 5 minutes from our house. So it's like, what are the chances? Like that is the fool at play, where when you open up yourself to receive, and you're willing to accept the infinite possibilities that things can happen, things just magically do. And we don't think that there is a connection between like, oh, hey, I'm moving to Redlands, maybe I should look for a job, and hey, this job just lined up. We don't really think of like that connection, that like he manifested it, that he willed it. But that's what happened without his knowledge. So now she's talking about the actual card. So she says the Mother Peace Fool card is a child walking on his hands, completely unaware of the dangers all around it, and unself-consciously happy to be alive. So you're not self-conscious. You can just be yourself and just know that you will be accepted and loved for being yourself. And that's why those inner child questions are so important, because your inner child is the one that should be in the driver's seat. The child is a symbol of the human soul that does not yet reflect upon itself the spark of life. So the spark also, like with Aries energy, the spark of life that recreates again and again until it awakens to itself. So the fool is like keep going on to like that next level, next level, next level. And the reason why we have these levels, and it's not even like level going up, it could be, but I think it's also just really like the universe just really wants to understand itself. And that's why it keeps like breaking down into smaller pieces to understand itself. Like you want to be able to experience it for yourself. And so that's also about the fool, that there are these infinite possibilities of what you can be. So we also saw this in the Golden Tarot deck, where the roses and the bag, but here there's also a peacock feather. But we're talking about the bag, and so the bag just represents, it's kind of like Dora's backpack, or like Mary Poppins bag, where it's just infinite stuff can come out of it. It just keeps coming, keeps coming, keeps coming. But the fool is perpetually young. It's always starting fresh. It's like the sunrise, or like the new moon, like I was talking about earlier. It's like this cycle that is always going to come back up, that we're always going to have a second chance. Doesn't matter how many times you've messed up. It's like I said, it's not like a yes, no kind of thing. Like there's only one right answer, and if you don't get this right, then your life is going to be shit. Like it's not about that. It's like, oh, I want to try it this way this time. Okay, this was what worked for it. This is what didn't work for it. I'm going to try this other thing now. And you just kind of go like that. And that's how you end up building your life. Not by like beating yourself up. Oh, I should have taken that road. You don't know what was down there. There's a reason why you didn't take that road. You really have to trust yourself and trust that you are making the right decisions at every moment. And it says it right here too. It's on page 25. It says, it believes in itself and automatically trusts its body and the general flow of life. Then the peacock feather that I was talking about earlier, this is a sign of ancient intelligence from the goddess of wisdom and internal truth, Mot. She's Egyptian. It also represents the griffin and vulture that you can see here. And yeah, so the peacock feather symbolizes this ancient intelligence that urges a person on toward truth. The other thing that we see here is the crocodile. So the crocodile represents this like reptilian wisdom, of like the pineal brain of a snake or a reptile. It's like this evolutionary precursor for higher wisdom that is going to be given to the fool through this trial and error journey. And it also symbolizes the third eye, which is what we also saw in the bag. So like getting deep into ourselves, deep into the collective. But it all also comes back to the general thing of there's nothing to fear. So like he's there, but he's a nice little crocodile. There's also the cat, that's the familiar, that it's there to help him on his journey. We also saw that with the crows of Rhiannon, and we saw that with the dog in the golden one. We also see like the magic mushroom, so that's like supporting like the stoned ape theory that there will be things along our path that will help us to understand ourselves better, and I feel like that's the point of the mushrooms. We also see like the sunrise we were talking about, the mountains, like we also talked about in the golden tarot deck, and the stream that we also already talked about, the stream of consciousness. This is the lotus flower. It comes from like mucky water. But it's so beautiful, and so like the beauty like of the flower represents like the higher self, and then it comes from the murky water. So we talk about like human desire and like all like that gunky stuff that people feel ashamed about, but it's actually like just part of the human experience, and there's nothing to be ashamed of it. Yeah, so right here it's on page 26 with the water lily. It's supposed to represent the crown chakra, the highest of the 7 focal points or energy centers. And then the playing about like joking around, going backwards, like all forms of sacred play are direct roots to the goddess and the pure wisdom of the lotus blossom. Here's the part about the mountains that they represent affection and spiritual love. The snowy caps signify a cool purity at the top of the climb, which melts into the flowing river of life that the fool prepares to cross. The morning sun peeking over the tops of the mountains suggests a freshness or early spring, putting the fool on the astrological cusp between Pisces, which is endings, and Aries, which is the beginnings. Then she says, as Von Franz reminds us, every time a human being makes real progress in consciousness, the whole world for him has changed. Relationships change and the outlook on the outer world, and his own situation changes. There is a complete rebirth of the world. And that's what we saw in my new moon oracle cards. So it's like once you start changing, then the droplets come down to the consciousness and everybody starts changing. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, so it all just comes down to trusting yourself, trusting that love flows through the universe, and letting the desires emerge into reality. So like I said, it's like that rainbow that's coming down over us. We have all the different colors. That means that we can represent all of ourselves, all of our different sides, and really trust that what we're doing is the right thing, and knowing that we're okay and that we're not alone and that it is safe to be ourselves. So I'm gonna end it there. Thank you again for being here if you're here live, and I really will see you next time. In case you like, I usually do it around this time on Wednesdays between like 2:30 to 4 is about the times that I start this podcast. So if you do want to be here live, that'd be great. If you want to follow me on Instagram, it's at Grounded Spirits. I also have a TikTok. I am working to actually like post more on them, so keep an eye out for that. If you want to know more about me, my name is Laura Lynn, and you can find me on Instagram and TikTok at It's Laura Lynn. And yeah, thanks again for being here, and I'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.